What's going on, Junkie Nation? Gorgeous George and Goes are back. We got another MMA superstar with us. It's Joe Lauzon, longtime member of the UFC. Probably holds a few records because of his long tenure. And guess what? He's going to mix it up with Cowboy Cerrone. It was announced last week. These two OGs, these two veterans, are going to do the dance. Joe Lauzon, welcome back to MMA Junkie Radio. How are you?
Thank you. Always good to be back on.
So, like we were talking earlier, but I'll let the audience know. I was kind of going through some older stuff, that I've accumulated over the years. And one of them was a ticket there that had Goes' name. His real name's Brian. And it was a ticket to, what was it, Goes? UFC what? What is that? Hold it up for a second.
UFC
so what is it, Goes?
63.
63 or 65?
63.
63. I looked up the card. And I remembered when Hughes, Penn, Arlovsky, Sylvia, Tito, I don't know, a lot of stuff was going down in Anaheim. They're coming to Anaheim a lot, but I remember this one young dude that just spoiled the party. He beat Jens Pulver, a former UFC lightweight, and all of his crew was behind us. It was awesome for Joe. It wasn't awesome for Jens, who we know and we respect, but I'll never forget that day. And I go, man, he'll get a kick out of this ticket. Joe, that was 16 years ago.
A long time ago, right?
Long ago. You're 37 now. You were 21 then.
Yep.
And that's young to start in the UFC, but you got it done. And is that still almost hold up? Maybe not your favorite fight ever, or is it your favorite fight ever, or is it in your Mount Rushmore top favorite fights ever?
They're trying to pick a favorite kid, right? I mean, I think of like the best fights. So obviously the Pulver one was awesome. Fighting in Boston for the first and the third one. We won't talk about the second one. So beating Gabe Rudiger in Boston was great. Beating Jonathan Pierce in Boston was great. Fighting a legend like Takanori Gomi was awesome. Beating Melvin Gillard was awesome.
In Houston, right?
That was in Houston. Yep, Texas. When I fought Jamie Varner, we got double bonus, which was great.
Wow.
We got fight tonight and I got performance tonight. Both times I fought Jim Miller. I mean, there's I've had a lot of really, really awesome fights. It's hard to pick.
Fear No Evil was the t-shirt, right?
Yep. Fear No Evil.
Fear No Evil, man.
Yep.
We're all getting old, man. But look, you can still compete. You signed on the dotted line. Was this just like one fight that was lingering in your contract, or you still got a few more?
No, so I think I have. I signed a 4-fight deal 2 fights ago. So I have this one and then I have one more. Not that it really means anything. I'm not trying to fight for anyone but the UFC anyways. I've had all my fights. Like, why would I go and do like a one last fight somewhere else? Like, I'm going to stay with the UFC forever. But we'll see. Like, I've been telling Sean Shelby that, I definitely wanted to, I want him to keep sending names to me. I hadn't turned down any fights, but he checked with me like this time last year, like maybe like March or something. And I wasn't quite ready to fight again then, just because of all the COVID stuff. Like, if I'm going to fight again, I want it to be under the right terms. And, doing an entire training camp and then having the fight not happen because of COVID would have sucked.
Right.
It's still possible. That could still happen now, but I feel like we're in a much, much better spot as far as that stuff goes. So we'll see what happens.
Will it take names like Cowboy to kind of, I guess, get you excited to do a whole camp? I mean, respectfully, you guys are two OGs. You guys have punched that clock over the years. I got to imagine that when you do hear certain names, it's like, all right, I guess I'll do it, or maybe I'll skip. What goes through your head when names are offered or entertained, or when you even see rumors out there?
Well, so I mean, I think as a fighter, where I get paid more when I win than when just fighting. Like, I want the easiest fight I can possibly get, right? So if you go and get a guy that's like is not very good, it's kind of like it's almost more dangerous because now you have someone that you think is not very good, so you maybe don't train quite as hard, you're not quite as prepared. But then you get a guy like Cowboy who's super fucking dangerous, super dangerous. And kind of the opposite of me, right? So he has like really polished stand up. He looks great, sparring and fighting and things like that. I'm kind of awkwardly effective. Like I get the job done, but it's never pretty. He's got very good jiu-jitsu. I think I have a little bit better jiu-jitsu though. I think that he's a slow starter. I'm a very fast starter. So I think that it's like, we both had tons of bonuses. I think it's just like, how did it not happen before now? But it honestly wasn't even a guy I thought about fighting. It was just when they offered him, like, oh, that's a name. That's the right name. That's the name we need. He's a little bit older than me, but we're both, same generation, same everything. We've both been here for a long time. He's been much more active in the last like 4 or 5 years than I have. But I think that's kind of to my advantage a little bit. So it's a great fight. I think it's a really good, exciting fight.
When will you know that it might be over? As we were talking about, Boston was a great way to sail off into the sunset. You won, and the fight before that had a losing taste in your mouth that you didn't want. And I know athletes either want to go out on top, or sometimes there's a loss that's like this cold bucket of water in your face that wakes you up and goes, man, I think I'm just done. Now that, along with contract situation, have you ever thought about when will you know?
I mean, I think that I'm always going to want to fight, right? You know, I had to ask my coach when we were offered this fight. I'm like, do we want to fight Cowboy? And they all like Cowboy. They all like the fight. They all like, I think it's a good matchup. But I'm like, okay, but let's say Cowboy's out of there altogether. Should I be fighting at all? You know, do you guys think that I should definitely be fighting? Do you think I shouldn't be fighting? Because my last fight was awesome. It was perfect. It couldn't, if that was my last fight, that would be a great career. It could have been the end of it. It would have been, you know, I'd be very, very happy going forward. You know, so if you guys think I shouldn't fight, then, you know, we don't have to do that. But, you know, if you guys think that, you know, we should, you know, kind of roll the dice one more time, then we can do that too. So we decided to take the fight. You know, like I was questioning myself if we should have just been like more definitive after the fight in Boston, like say, okay, this is my last one, and just gone on and be done with it. You know, like, you know, how would that have changed things for me or anything like that? But we rolled the dice. We you know, we're back in the same boat. And now I should know better, and I should know enough to be like, okay, we're going to say this is the last one and all this other stuff. But I don't think I'm ready to say that. So,
yeah. You know what? So I just thought of something, and I guess this is what makes fans and pundits curious. Let's take, for example, Tom Brady, who just retired, and also Ben Roethlisberger. He retired. When Ben Roethlisberger retired, we all kind of had a feeling he was going to. So when he had his last game at Heinz Field where Pittsburgh plays, he kind of went around and high-fived and soaked it all up. And you could tell like that last walkout, probably that last snap, it all kind of meant something to him. And then even walking through that tunnel at the very end, you know, people got to bring signs and all that. Now let's take a look at Tom Brady, who played, and them and the Rams went back and forth. The Rams got him at the last moment, and then it was just, you know, it was over. The rumors started floating last week, and now he's really, really retired. And I don't know that he really got that swan song. Is that something you do want? Because I'm telling you, Joe, the fans would go nuts if they knew when your last fight was going to be.
I don't want the swan song. I don't want it to be anything like different. Like I want to perform as a fighter. And I want to be out there ready to kill. Like it was kind of weird. Like, you know, before we were offered the Cowboy fight, like I was kind of like taking more of like a coach's role. Like I wasn't trying to be super competitive with the guys in my gym. Like I'm training hard all the time, but I wasn't like, I'm trying to be smarter as I'm training. I'm trying to like make sure I'm not injuring myself and I'm not being too crazy. I'm not taking unnecessary chances. I'm picking like a little bit safer roles and people a little bit more competitive. You know, staying away from people that are like super competitive with me. And then, you know, we get the Cowboy fight. I'm like, okay, here we go. So now it's like, now I'm looking for all those killers in my gym, you know, and we get this one kid, Tyler, at my gym that like, he's so freaking good. He's like my size, really, really good grappler. He has tapped me so many times since like the beginning of the year, like last year, you know, the last year we've been in our gym, and haven't caught him at all, like the entire year. And then the second we get the fight, you know, we get the Cowboy contract, and I sign the dotted line. The very next day I catch him. You know, he didn't give it to me. He did not want me to get it, you know, but I caught him. It's just like a little bit of a switch gets hit, and it just becomes like, it levels it up a little bit. I go from, okay, like trying to be like the coach and kind of trying to be friendly with everyone to just trying to murder people. So it's kind of nice, I think.
You know, Donald Cerrone is a guy that you've been around for many years. You know, I'm sure you guys have crossed paths plenty of times. In your mind, at some point, did you kind of have a feeling one day you would meet up, and have you kind of like already game planned for a guy like this 10 years ago, 5 years ago? Anything
not really.
Like
so he came out and he like, maybe this might be like 4 years ago. He was in Boston filming a movie, and so him and you know, Schilling and a whole bunch of their guys all came out. Mickey Gall, they all came and they trained at my gym. Like I gave them a key to my gym. I'm like, here you go. Use the gym anytime you want. You know, this is a schedule for classes. Use it anytime you want in between classes. Come and train classes, whatever you want to do. Totally fine. And I actually did not train with him one time because I had surgery on my knee. I had meniscus surgery on my knee like the week before they were coming on. I didn't know they were coming. It was just like, hey, we're in Boston. You know, can we come train? I'm like, yes, come train. But I had surgery on my knee last week. Like I can't train. You know, but he got to train with all my guys. You know, so my guys got to train with him a little bit, kind of see where he's at, what he's good at, what he's not. So there's a little bit of inside info there. I mean, 4 years ago, who knows? But a little bit. But I've always been friendly with him. There was one time he was coming up for Boston. He was looking for a place to plug in his trailer, so I was trying to, you know, help him figure out a spot for that. Like, always been a good guy to me, you know. But we're professional fighters. This is what we do. You know, we both get paid to beat people up. So we're both going to train for the next 3 months, and we're going to murder each other.
You know, one of the coolest things about when you fight, is George had mentioned it, your friends and your family, they're just a mob, basically. They walk around, they wear the same shirts, and they're just fun to watch, you know, even in the hotel and all that. Do you feel like they're more excited for these fights than they were even the younger fights? So how does that work?
I think they are. You know, it's because like everyone's thinking, okay, this might be the last one. You know, I had people that like I've already get people contacting me about they want to, you know, jump on the sponsor shirt we're gonna do. I don't even know what the fight's gonna be. I don't even know if we're gonna do a shirt. Like, hey, I regret that I didn't do the sponsor shirt last time. I want to be on it this time. Like, it's just I have so many people texting me trying to find out where the fight's gonna be because they want to book flights. I have great support. You know, like, you know, it's like one level deep because of like, you know, friends and family, but then it's like a second level deep because of the gym. And then, you know, there's so many people that have trained with us over the years, that maybe they don't train with us anymore, but you know, they still want to support, they want to do whatever. So like, it's awesome. I have great support all the way through.
So you, throughout your career, and I could be wrong, you tell me if I'm wrong, but you've done a lot of things for the first time. I believe that a lot of fighters can look back and go, all right, this is how Joe Lauzon did it. And I have a little bit of a blueprint because you've had to go through all those things, putting up your own gym, you know, training, all these things you kind of had to do on your own. Looking back, how would you you have all these new students and you're teaching them. I know you opened up you switched your locations in the middle of the pandemic. Like, how do you instruct them and give them advice, but at the same time, kind of knowing, you know how we all are, sometimes we don't listen. But you've been through so many things that I feel like you're a wealth of knowledge. How do you handle that with like students and friends?
I think like the best example of this is like as grappling goes. Like, so like when I first started doing jiu-jitsu, like I loved Leglocks, right? So like I got very good at Leglocks. I just, you know, it was like a dirty habit going for any kind of heel hooks or whatever back in the day, because, you know, a lot of Brazilians didn't like footlocks. They didn't like this stuff. And you know, they were legal in some tournaments and illegal in others and whatever. And I submitted a lot of really good grapplers with leg locks. Like, they were like the dirty secret that, you know, no one talked about. And then I had a whole bunch of fights and I went for leg locks and I finished a bunch, but then some other fights I got punched in the head and it wasn't a good idea. So I haven't done it a lot in the UFC. But it was like one of those things where it's like, okay, like I started loving leg locks in the beginning and then I had a lot of success with it. But then as time went on, I'm like, oh, maybe I should have passed the guard. Maybe I should have put a little bit more time and effort into that. And now I'm getting paid back because I have like a whole bunch of blue belts. They're all a bunch of dirty leg lockers, right? And I try to tell them so much. I'm like, hey, look, like I like that you like leg locks. I like that you're taking up this interest, but let's maybe try to pass the guard a little bit. Let's try and figure it out a little bit. You know, and they're like, of course, they're just these dirty leg lockers that have like terrible guard passing. And I'm like, I've done this. I've been down this. I know this story. It's not as good. You'll be way better off learning how to pass the guard and do this and that. And they want to do it their own way, you know? So, I try not to I think I've done some things like first, like ahead of the curve a little bit and taken chances and done things like that. You know, but you try to tell people, but sometimes they got to burn their own hand to realize something's hot. So, you know, I try to just, you know, not be so forceful with it. You know, I show people like, you know, what's worked for me. I try to give them good advice, but at the end of the day, they do their own thing, whether they want to do jiu-jitsu or they want to fight or they're just trying to lose some weight or whatever else. I try not to have like such a heavy hand about things. And I let them do it. I tell them what I think. If they want to listen, great. If they don't, then that's okay too.
We talked a little bit about kind of bucket list things, and you brought up something that's going to drive me crazy later on when I think about it.
Okay.
I don't know that people are going to know the significance today of you fighting Takanori Gomi. The second we heard that, we all just weirded out, right? This is a whole new generation. But I'm curious, like, as far as bucket lists go, is there maybe a finish to a fight that you've always wanted to land? You've never been able to do it?
Not a finish to a fight. I almost landed a power bomb when I fought George Soteropoulos. And it was like something I do in the gym all the time. Like if someone's shooting, I stuff their head in the middle, I get around the waist, I lift them up, and and I always put them down nice and slow and easy. But it's so cool to do it in the gym. And I almost did against Soteropoulos, and then of course the irony there is I was in perfect position to do it, and I didn't do it because I didn't want to gas, and then I gassed horribly in the second round anyways. Like I didn't do the power bomb. If I had gone for the power bomb, I probably would have won the fight. But I didn't do it. So I wish I had hit the power bomb. But otherwise, like, no, I mean, I like whatever gets the job done. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, like, I would love to go out there and, nothing would make me happier than like shooting on Cowboy Cerrone. And then he tries to defend it, gives me his back, and I choke him and just hit him with like a basic rear naked choke. Like I want to get the job done the quickest and fastest way possible. So, but there's nothing that like stands out. Like I hit the flying heel hook a couple times, but I've never finished it. I hit it on Jim Miller. I hit it on Kyle Bradley. I think I went for it on Jeremy Stevens. I had a fireman's carry on Jeremy Stevens, which was pretty cool. Like my wrestling coach hates it, but I hit it. But there's nothing like that. Like, oh, I have to hit this or whatever. It's like whatever gets me the win is I'm good with.
Joe, so you've done well with the bonuses. You've actually gone through a few contracts. You've won a lot of fights. And I remember you also had a good paying job even before you were fighting when you were, full-time there. And then this will never be like an economic decision, right? In terms of like, oh, I got to fight one more or anything like that. Like, and it seems like you have a lot of kids at your gym. So the gym must be doing well. Is that a relief to not have that I guess one worry that some fighters do run into is they just need a check?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I'm in a good spot financially with that kind of stuff. Like, it's like, fighters get the fighter pay thing is always like big for people, like, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've had some like really good years. I've had some pretty crappy years too. It's just, but I've always been kind of like cautious about stuff, like as far as like spending and stuff like that. I was never crazy. Almost every time I fought, I would throw some money at the mortgage of my house. I owe like very little on my house now. So I'm in a good spot. My gym is crushing it. My gym never really made that much money until like when I was actively fighting. Like it did okay, but that was really never the goal of the gym, right? The goal, the main purpose of my gym was to give me like the best environment for training purposes, right? So like we'd have, some kid that was like a good wrestler that didn't have a lot of money. We let him come and train for free or pretty much free. We did that all the time to keep like the best training partners in the gym for myself. Because that was the purpose of the gym, right? It was basically like it was kind of like the gym was paying for itself to give me like this ultimate training environment, which was really good for me. Once we were getting to the end of fighting, okay, we started kind of changing it around. Like the last 2 years, I've really trying to done like a deep dive on business stuff and learn how to run the gym better. I like this coaching group I do that, basically I pay like, a lot of money every single month to learn how to run the gym better and do stuff like that. So like I'm in a really, really good spot, really good shape with the gym as far as that stuff goes. I'm definitely not doing this because I need money. I'm doing this because I like the idea of fighting again. Like, and I know that, at some point I'm probably always going to like the idea of fighting, but at some point it's going to be, okay, this is definitely done. Like if I fight, I'm going to fight Cowboy in a couple months. And then, if it's another 3 years before we're ready to fight or we want to fight again, then, that's probably not going to be the time. That's probably going to be too late, at 40 years old. So, we'll just kind of see, but I'm not stuck. It's definitely a nice feeling, being comfortable as far as that stuff goes. My wife has got is a nursing job at Children's Hospital in Boston. So that's good too. She's got a good job. So we're definitely good. I don't want it to be like that. It's like, oh, Joe has to fight because Joe's broke. That is not the case. I'm doing this because I want to be there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just a couple more here. The fight with Ciryl Gane and Francis Ngannou, you mentioned Leglocks.
Yep.
Do you think that all the gyms on Monday kind of addressed it? Because as you were talking to Goes and answering his question, I thought, wow, we almost had that in front of our eyes, almost like a teaching moment, like what parents tell their kids. That fight was 2-2 going into the last round, and Ciryl Gane is probably winning the early part of the round. And then because he kind of focused on the leg locks, and then Francis was able to kind of get the top position, get some ground and pound in, the judges leaned towards him. But was that almost like a perfect example of what you're talking about, where like you better hit that bad boy or it could be costly? Is that what you meant?
Dead on. You know, like the big thing on leg locks in particular is like you're dead. Pretty much every leg lock, you need both hands, right? You need two hands, or a hook and a heel, or a toe hold, or whatever you're gonna do. So there are definitely some where you only need one, but for the most part, if I dedicate both my hands to someone's leg, that means I have no control at all over their hands. So like sometimes people can positionally keep themselves, their head away, but a lot of times the person that, you know, if you're not getting it, the other person's getting leg locked can fight their way on top, and they can land elbows and punches and all kinds of things like that. So you have to be very, very careful. I think it's one of those things. It's like, it's kind of similar to like a guillotine, right? So like if you're on top and you have a guillotine, right, you can pull guard for the guillotine. I don't think that that's necessarily wrong, but you have to have a lot of confidence and a lot of faith that you like the bite, you like the grip you have, you like everything about it, that you think you're going to finish. If you're just like, oh, like if you think that, oh, it's just so, you should not pull for the guard. You should not, pull and go on bottom and risk everything else. Like you should have stayed on top. Just let it go and move on. And I think that kind of happens sometimes. Guys, they could pass the guard or at least just stay on top. But instead they go for that leg lock, and it puts them on bottom and they get punched. Or, they lose the decision, or they lose points in the judge's eyes. It's hard.
And just to follow up, what was that last thing you were saying about coaching? You pay to go to a coach's seminar, or coaches pay you and you give the seminar?
Oh, no. So I do. It's called the A-Team. As a girl, Chris. So I don't know if you remember. You remember Matt Arroyo? He was on The Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah.
So Alan Berube was on my season of The Ultimate Fighter, and then I think Arroyo was on like season 6 or 7. I think 7 maybe. And so when I fought Jeremy Stevens down in Florida, I knew Alan. I knew that Gracie Tampa was there. So I went to go train at Alan's gym, right? Because they had a gym that was there. I don't want to train where the UFC guys were. So we went there. I met Rob Kahn. I met Chris Rodriguez. I met Matt Arroyo, right? So like, I had a great experience down there, and our gym always did well with adults, but we never did well with kids. And I knew that. So Chris Rodriguez, she's a female MMA fighter. I called her midget. She's a little short, but very, very good, very, very smart. She was going to school to be a teacher. And, as she was doing that, she was training. She black belt in jiu-jitsu, really, really good. And she took over the kids program, and their kids program exploded. So, I was asking them, like, how do you do such a good job with your kids program? What are you doing that's different? Because there's all these Taekwondo schools that are out there that are open up. They have like 9 locations, right? And they're not doing, I think, the most effective, like self-defense, like fighting. But they do a way better job with all the other stuff, like with the mat chats and talking to the kids and raising good kids and all kind of stuff. So like, Chris had come up doing Taekwondo, and, so I started asking Matt, like, what is Chris doing? Was there? He's like, she has like this coaching group. You should do this. So the first level, it was like, I paid like $1,000 for the year, and our program like exploded. And then at that point, I'm like, okay, like, I started asking her this more and more and more. And like, she's like, oh, well, this is like the next group that we do. And it's like, I think I pay like $500 a month or something like that. But it's like, it's all these other like super experienced, knowledgeable school owners that I'm just kind of part of this group. So like I pay every single month, and we do like meetings every 2 weeks. And like during the pandemic, it saved our gym. Honestly, like there was so many things that like I would have never thought to do on my own. But we started, like, we bought like grappling dummies, and, we figured out where to buy the grappling dummies. We figured out how to run the classes and how to do the Zoom stuff and like all these different things that I never would have known. But, I was part of this group, and it was, all these other things. So it's like, it's awesome. It saved my gym for sure. It got us through the pandemic.
The reason I followed up and asked was because James Krause has transitioned nicely from fighting to coaching. And I was wondering if that was what you were talking about, and that's something you also wanted to do.
So this coaching group is more about like how to run your gym more effectively,
right.
But like what James is doing is awesome. Is like he just has so many great fighters that are there, and he's got this awesome location, and he's just a workhorse too. Like you see him like back when the pandemic started, like everyone else is like closing up, but everyone else is scared, and he's like, hey, I want to buy houses. If you have a house you're trying to sell, I want to buy it. Like he was getting after it. He's a workhorse, and it's super smart guy. I've known James for a really long time. I remember like he guillotined one of my guys, like the first tough tryout. I think that we got on. Phenomenal jiu-jitsu, great fighter.
Joe, I want to thank you for hanging out with us for almost half an hour here. We really appreciate it. Great catching up with you. April 30th, man. We're locked in. We're ready for you versus Cowboy, and all we need is that location. Send location. Like location.
I know, that's what I want. My phone is blowing up. It's nonstop. Every single day I'm getting probably 10 or 12 text messages from different people.
I would say buy Southwest to Vegas, because Southwest is the tickets are they're refundable in the sense that you can move, if you can move all the proceeds if it winds up being in Florida, you don't
Yep.
lose any fees or something like that.
Yep.
And let's face it,
we'll
the
go pretty
Apex
soon.
seems to be 90% of the time, 95% of the time where they go.
I asked them, like, when I accepted the fight, I said from the beginning, I need to like the opponent, I need to like the date, I need to like the location. And I knew the opponent, I knew the date, I didn't know the location. I'm like, is it gonna be, it's gotta be, you know, somewhere domestic, so somewhere, you know, inside the country. And because I'm not getting stuck out of the country. That's not happening. And then I was like, I don't want to fight in Brooklyn because I hated fighting Brooklyn.
Why?
But they're doing Brooklyn like just before or just after, whatever it is. So I think I'm safe. I asked about Vegas. I'm like, is it looking likely for Vegas? And they said, we're trying to not do Vegas. So
what's wrong with Brooklyn? Is this a Boston, New York thing?
No. I got my ass kicked in Brooklyn.
Oh,
Brooklyn was not good. It wasn't like everything was kind of uncomfortable. Like we were close enough to drive, but then parking was like a huge pain in the ass. It wasn't. We would do things very differently if we fought in Brooklyn again, but hopefully we're not.
Got it. All right, man. Thanks again. Have a great afternoon. I hope you have a great camp, and we'll see you in a few months.
All right, sounds good.